The Linux Foundation has added DocumentDB, which is a PostgreSQL open source document database, to its projects under an MIT license, which is aiming to create a standardized NoSQL platform. This is backed by major companies like AWS, Google, and Microsoft. DocumentDB combines MongoDB compatibility with Postgres reliability, offering more flexibility and reducing vendor lock-in. While full MongoDB compatibility is still a work in progress, the project focuses on portability, developer choice, and supporting, you guessed it, AI-era workloads. Uh, what do you think about this, Al? Is this just another database that I have to choose from in the magical wheel of databases, or is there some real progress being made here?
I think there's a big chunk of confusion on the name DocumentDB here, and I want to address that part first. Because AWS has a service called DocumentDB with MongoDB compatibility. This DocumentDB ain't that. Even though AWS is part of the group of companies that are doing this DocumentDB, this one is more coming from a little bit of the Microsoft side for some of the development in here, but it's a set of extensions to Postgres that make it a non-relational or NoSQL querying standard. And the point here is to have something that is in the Linux Foundation that is not tied to a interesting licensing change. And the background on that one is MongoDB changed their licensing to prevent AWS and other cloud companies from building a product using the MongoDB code. My understanding is the AWS DocumentDB uses the MongoDB code from before that licensing change, and so is not based on Postgres. This new one is based on Postgres, is in the Linux Foundation, supported by a bunch of other companies as well. So it's not just one company pushing it up. AWS, Google, Microsoft, Cockroach Labs, and Gigabyte, amongst others, are involved in this effort to have a standardized document database tool available. It's a good thing. It is going to be beneficial if we see a standard kind of database that you can use across multiple different platforms. They're talking about this as being as standardized as using SQL. So writing a SQL application where your application code only needs to be able to talk SQL, and then there's a layer between that, a SQL driver layer between that and whichever database vendor you're using. That's the kind of approach they're looking for here, although it is actually the database engine that's being released in here rather than an abstraction layer. I think this is a pretty cool thing. I think we will see more development of this, and it will be interesting to see what AWS calls their open DocumentDB service that isn't their current DocumentDB service. If you follow Corey Quinn's last week in AWS, you'll know that naming of products at AWS is an interesting challenge all unto itself and doesn't necessarily follow any sense. There's some really interesting elements in this DocumentDB version, particularly support for ACID consistency, which is not something we'd normally see in a NoSQL database. That's a very important thing, particularly for enterprise organizations, where all of your application developers come from a background of having SQL and ACID consistency, and you start talking to them about eventual consistency, and they get terrified. Larger goal, full compatibility with MongoDB. Further down the track, there's some tendencies for Mongo themselves to take you to court when you get too close to compatibility with newer features in MongoDB, so there'll be some challenges there. But I think the expectation is that this will be a product we'll use rather than MongoDB, since that more restrictive licensing Mongo.